Much of the world has changed in the last decade due to rapid developments in industrialization and new digital technologies. Compounding these changes is the COVID-19 pandemic, which impacted the world greatly. To give a recap of the social, economic, political, and environmental situation in 2022, let us identify key events that took place last year. Despite the government's vaccination program, 2022 saw an exponential rise in COVID-19 cases due to the spread of the Omicron variant. In response to this and the inequality in COVID-19 vaccine distribution, governments and international organizations are now prioritizing health and health-related sustainable development goals. Ecological health is one of the major concerns in 2022, not only because of the increase in frequency of environmental disasters in the past decade, but also because of the surge in disease outbreaks and pandemics due to harmful viruses and pathogens in the environment. Compounding the above-mentioned issues and problems concerning ecological health is the reality of war around the world and conflict between countries, such as in Russia and Ukraine. In Asia, South Korea and Japan were on high alert in an event of an attack from neighboring North Korea, who launched over 90 nuclear missiles and devices in the past year. In the same manner, the Philippine military was on guard for a possible attack from China, who sent dozens of Chinese vessels in the West Philippine Sea, encroaching the country's sovereignty. The easing of health restrictions did not only allow businesses to operate more freely, but also resulted in high rates of inflation worldwide, caused by the increased demand for goods and services and wars, among other factors. In the Philippines, there was a 4% increase in the price of goods and services due to the rapid increase of oil and gas prices. Amid these challenges of climate change, pandemic, poverty, and heated political climate, the Philippines has shown progress in achieving the SDGs. Notably, progress was made in SDGs 1, 3, 4, 14, 16, and 17. In addition, there was a significant progress in SDGs 4, 14, and 17. This is apparent in the effort of the government and non-governmental organizations to improve skills for employment, conserve coastal areas, and develop technological capacity building. However, the Philippines is still far from achieving the SDGs because they have failed to make progress in SDGs 2, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, and 13. There was significant regression in SDGs 5, 11, and 13, as evident in issues concerning violence against women and girls, early marriage, air quality and waste management, the lack of disaster risk management policies, and the inadequacy of resilience and adaptive capacity measures to natural disasters. PRRM saw 2022 as an opportunity to take the lessons from disruptions in human and ecological health, climate, economics, social and political relationships, and to slowly shape a 5-year strategy. Hence, PRRM board and staff underwent a strategic planning exercise involving an assessment of the institution's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges from the pandemic year 2020. For the period 2022 to 2027, we sharpened the target outcomes and objectives. The strategic plan indicates 3 expected outcomes with corresponding objectives. The objectives for Outcome 1 are efficient management and utilization of assets and investment in social enterprises and other entities to establish and sustain PRRM's FIAT for its core programs. Enhanced institutional policies, systems, and procedures to incorporate present-day situation and anniversary celebration for years 70 and 75. The objectives for Outcome 2 are leadership of local movements in various programs and projects, leadership in national and global discourse on social enterprise and entrepreneurship development as a sustainability strategy for rural development, improved organizational systems of NFS and local POs, improved organizational systems of PRRM chapters, COVID-19 recovery and sustainability planning for social enterprises, and increased capacity of the PRRM Global Center and BISD to support education and capacity building of local movements and other partners. The objectives for Outcome 3 are effective policy formulation and advocacy for reforms in national and global laws and in local ordinances related to sustainable rural development, and sustained leadership and participation in local, national, and global platforms and networks. The accomplishments and outcomes of PRRM in 2022 are grouped into three major outcomes. For the first outcome, a strategic plan framework for the PRRM Global Center in the Silang Dasmariñas campus was formulated in accordance with the institutional strategic plan. The Global Center is envisioned to be a learning exchange hub and partnership center for sustainable development technologies and innovations. PRRM board and staff also identified possible sources of funds to address financial constraints and regain financial sustainability through core fund building and assets management, including the payment of real estate taxes on PRRM properties, the creation of a working group on the Silang Dasmariñas property, PRRM property in Cavite and Marinduque, and so on. The board and its committees held their regular virtual meetings to deliberate and act on PRRM's projects, advocacies, and networks and partners. The board created three committees, namely the Membership Board and Chapter Development Committee, the Program and Partnership Development Committee, and the Financial Sustainability Committee. The annual National Council meeting was held online on July 15, 2022 as part of the celebration of PRRM's 70th anniversary. On July 16, 2022, the board, staff, chapters, and alumni participated in the inter-chapter and alumni meeting with conversations on several topics. PRRM alumni residing or working in the Philippines and overseas organized its own organizing committee with which the PRRM staff coordinated, especially for the anniversary celebration. In the early part of the year, 19 graduating students from the Cavite State University performed admirably as PRRM interns. As interns, they participated in the basic course on sustainability. For the second outcome, members of the POLAC from partner national sectoral federations participated in a consultation meeting in January 2022 and an agenda-building workshop in March 2022 as preparation for the May 2022 elections. Continuing financial and technical support was provided to allied social enterprises such as Vizcaya Fresh Inc., Lagawe Highlands Rural Bank Inc., Kooperatibang Lakas ng Nueva Ecija, and Microfinance Institution Camiguin to help cope with the economic and financial impacts stemming from pandemic-related restrictions. For the year 2022, 2 conversations on sustainability were organized on 3 themes: the Mandanas-Garcia ruling, PRRM projects and contributions to the Sustainable Development Goals, and sustainable fisheries. The projects completed in 2022 include the Tubig sa Barrio and Camarines Sur in partnership with the Coca-Cola Foundation Philippines. In this project, a water supply system for domestic use and irrigation was constructed in the town of Magarao in Camarines Sur. The Brook project was implemented by Oxfam and local CSO partners with funding from ADB through its Urban Climate Change Resilience Trust Fund. The project team worked with communities in doing community-based resilience planning and implementing pilot resilience projects. In 2022, CSGs were organized and pilot infrastructure projects were constructed. In Barangay Betag in La Trinidad, Benguet, flood drainages with climate-resilient box culverts were constructed to address annual flooding affecting low-income farmers. An evacuation and multi-purpose center was constructed to provide safe shelter during floods, landslides, and other emergencies in Barangay Napaan, Malay, Aklan. A Level 3 community-managed water system and rainwater harvesting facility was constructed in Haniway, Iloilo to respond to water scarcity and drought. A solid waste management recovery and recycling facility was constructed to address waste management challenges in Barangay del Carmen, Surigao del Norte. The ongoing projects in 2022 include the Bayang Walang Basura. PRRM and its community partners continued the first phase of the BWB project in Albay, Bataan, Cavite, and Marinduque, and initiated project partnerships in Cotabato and Nueva Ecija. Partner community eco-aids participated in capacity-building activities on occupational safety and health and on social entrepreneurship. A variety of small businesses were initiated in relation to waste reduction, alternative product packaging, and or reuse of waste materials. As of December 2022, PRRM under the Fish Right Program partnered with a total of 55 people's organizations directly and indirectly through a Fisherfolk Alliance, reaching out to 1,635 individuals in the 4 towns of EB Magalona, Escalante, Manapla, and Sagay, and in 2 cities of Cadiz and Victorias. The members are represented in their respective municipality or city, development councils, and in various committees and multi-stakeholder coordinating bodies for sustainable fisheries management. PRRM also strengthened resiliency of the Liguasan marsh farmers to climate change and disaster impacts. The project's overall objective is the increased resilience towards climate-related risks and disasters of vulnerable farmers in climate-affected areas of Liguasan Marsh and Cotabato. PRRM also provided scholarship support through financial aid to students in Eastern Samar. Over 10 scholars have graduated, with most of them participating as volunteers in PRRM's activities in the province. The 1111 and the Synergy Network supported capacity building and participatory governance activities on sustainable agriculture, climate change action, and entrepreneurship by local organizations and LGUs in Regions 2 and 5. PRRM acted as the lead NGO partner in Camarines Sur. As an initial activity of the Kapakanan Network, enterprise profiles of partner POs and social enterprises were documented by volunteer students from the Cavite State University. Projects commenced in 2022 include the Food Hives Project in partnership with the IC and Oxfam Pilipinas. The Food Hives Project helps enhance the capacity of women in Cavite, Marinduque, and Nueva Ecija to manage community seed banking enterprises that produce seeds of organic vegetables, herbs, fruits, and root crops for food security. A proposal on mangrove rapid assessment in Eastern Samar submitted to the Forest Foundation Philippines has been approved. Beginning in December 2022, the short-term project is targeted to be completed in February 2023. The Delobi project is led and implemented by Haribon Foundation through mobilizing resource persons from NGOs and academic institutions to develop knowledge materials and sharing platforms to increase the access of local decision makers to communication, education, and public awareness materials on natural resource management and biodiversity conservation. PRRM developed 2 modules on good environment governance and project program development and planning. Projects in the proposal development stage include the ecological solid waste management through social enterprise development, 3 as ecological and post-audit action in Del Carmen, Surigao del Norte, youth and social enterprises, community networks, CBCRM in Manila Bay, community-based value chain development of ecological solid waste management in Bataan, Bulacan, and Cavite, and PRRM program for local coconut industry development. For Outcome 3, PRRM participated in various local and national advocacy campaigns, events, and networks. PRRM is a member of the SDG Stakeholders Chamber coordinated by NEDA. The UNDP flagship report launch of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling, Decentralization, Digitalization, and Development was organized by the UNDP and the DILG. Ms. Becky Malay was commissioned by the UNDP to coordinate the research and edit the report which probed into the current situation faced by the LGUs in delivering services towards sustainable development and the substantial increase in the revenue allotments to LGUs as a result of the Mandanas ruling. The NSFs, through their respective national presidents, continued to represent their sectors in the National Anti-Poverty Commission. They also continued to represent their sectors in the Philippine Council for Agriculture and Fisheries. Present coalition has drafted a statement pressuring the Senate and House of Representatives to fast-track the enactment of the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Bill. PRRM attended the conference to push for the enactment and mainstreaming of the present bill and program. Mr. Marlon Palomo presented PRRM's framework and experience on food security. PRRM continued to participate in national advocacies on adult education through the Civil Society Network for Education Reforms. PRRM was also elected as a member of INET's National Advocacy Council Cluster on ALE. In mid-November, the PGS Board, where PRRM is secretary, was convened to discuss updates from members of the board and to plan the network's next activities. The Philippine Council for Agriculture and Fisheries convened its National Banner Program Committee for a participatory performance review and planning. The workshop aimed to establish agreements and gain support for the continuous improvements of the agency's programs aligned with the department's trust and priorities. PRRM participated in a dialogue and planning workshop on co-creating an enabling environment for women in agricultural value chains towards promoting transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment. PRRM also participated in the General Assembly and Action Planning of Action Klima last October 2022. Throughout 2022, PRRM and partners organized conversations on different sustainable development themes, Coconut Industry Development Fund, and sustainable fisheries. PRRM was also active in various regional and global advocacies. PRRM participated in the People's Vaccine Campaign, which aims to mobilize civil society networks to campaign for universal access to vaccination. They also participated in the Global Days of Action on the SDGs. The overarching message of this year's activation urges people to flip the script and reclaim this moment to change the narrative and tell a different story as we approach the midway point of the SDG agenda. PRRM attended the GCAP Asia Regional Assembly in Thailand. Discussions included updates on the various national coalitions' activities, the socio-economic and political situation in Asia, critical reflection points on the ongoing advocacy project for a people's vaccine, and the global advocacy of GCAP on inequality. PRRM also attended the Asia Democracy Assembly in Indonesia. The assembly discussed the state of democracy, civic space, and human rights in Asia. PRRM participated in the Asia-Pacific consultation on the Global Sustainable Development Report. The workshops on the GSDR draft outline and content discuss the issues that need attention to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. PRRM also participated in the Advocacy Calendar for Asia monthly webinar. The webinar was a discussion on the major advocacy events of Asian networks on sustainable development, human rights, and democracy. Ms. Becky Malay spoke on the topic of the Summit of the Future and the Global Futures Forum. PRRM took part in the Citizenship Education Survey that was facilitated by the Asia South Pacific Association for Basic and Adult Education. The Rural Revitalization Youth Exchange Program with partners in China and Thailand has transitioned into the SLINE Asia, which was launched in September 2022. SLINE Asia is a regional network launched in 2022, initiated by young people from China, the Philippines, and Thailand who are committed to sustainable practices for life and communities in the face of the world's increasing uncertainty through experience sharing, cross-cultural dialogue and practices. Co-convened by PRRM, the Rural Revitalization Youth and Social Entrepreneurship Platform was launched in July 2022. It aims to make a contribution in bringing rural development practice and policy in the Asian region into a sustainable and resilient path. As the lead convener of the NGOs for Fisheries Reform, PRRM joined the network's members in local and national policy advocacy work for sustainable fisheries management, particularly through coastal resource protection, strengthening of local fishers organizations, and influencing municipal fisheries and aquatic resource management councils. PRRM maintained membership in national and global advocacy networks for the SDGs. PRRM's field project teams and provincial chapters engaged with local government units and civil society networks in specific projects and in local policy advocacy work through different multi-stakeholder bodies such as provincial development councils.